questions. I had one meeting where these boards weren't up here and questions came up about the boards. So I figured I'd just go ahead and continue just putting them up there in case there's any questions. I think you've all been here before, you've seen this. This is one that talks about our wells and improvements that happened. This is one of the three pictures that we have. And then there's some questions about the park grants and stuff that the governor currently has on hold, but what that park grant consisted of. So there's some things going on today in the village, and you probably all know. We've got the community yard sale that's happening across from Do It Best. And I'll be out there today from about noon to 2, noon to 3. I already got my table rented, and I got a space out there, so residents, if they want to come out and see me, we're going to have a disc jockey who's coming out. They're going to play music. So I think right now, I think Snoopy's out there or something, so they got for the kids. So it looks like a good day. I was out there this morning helping set up. My daughter's got a table, so.
All right.
But we were out there helping them set up this morning, and a little bit wet, but I think they're going to have a good day. They had a pretty good turnout. In fact, when I got to come here and get set up, there were still people coming in and set tables up. So, and the sun's shining, so that's good. Hopefully they drive some of that grass. But we got a lot going on this summer. We got a lot of plans. Just trying to give you a heads up. We're going to do, on the second Saturday of every month, we're going to make a full day of it, where we'll be here, continue from 9 to 11. And then the goal is to do a meet the mayor in the park. We're going to continue hitting the parks this year. We'll try to get some of the parks we didn't get last year. And we'll be doing that from like noon to 2, noon to 3. I haven't figured out the hours quite yet. So we're going to start today and start hitting the parks, but because they've got the community garage sale, I figured it'd be best I could help pay for a table and a spot, and at the same time I can still be out there. So we're helping the beautification committee. And of course today there'll be no hot dogs and chips and pop because they're selling, so I didn't want to affect their fundraiser. But stop by, because I think when I left this morning, Linda was still making cupcakes, so we'll be passing out cupcakes out there. I think she's making like 150 of them, so we'll have plenty for anyone that comes out for a couple hours.
You have to get there early.
Well, yeah. So, but I think we'll have enough. I'm planning on being out there for a couple hours. So if people come by and grab a cupcake and any questions, tell your neighbors, stop by and do some shopping while you're at it for the yard sale. But let's see some things that's been happening. Last Saturday, we had the Advance Auto had their car show. For the first one, it was great. They were concerned about how it was going to happen because they had to postpone it because of the rain. And they had a great turnout. In fact, it was so good, they're talking about doing it monthly now during the summer months. So, and they're going to get the information. They've already started the planning for the next one because they said the next one's going to be a Motown theme. So they got their disc jockey out there and their DJ and be playing all Motown music. So we had I was able to be there for the whole entire event. We had the mayor's pick, and I told him, I said, well, thank you very much because you'll make everyone here mad at me except for one person. So I got to pick, my pick was a 1967 GTO, and it was nice, but I have to be honest with you, it was a hard pick because there were some beautiful cars out there, and it also makes it hard because when you have village residents out there with cars, so, and of course I've been around for a long time, so I know a lot of these residents, but it was amazing how many people came out with cars. You know, I know Ed was out there taking videos, and I didn't take count, but I would say there had to be 40 or 50 cars. We had 2 rows that went all the way down from Advance Auto all the way up to Fairway, back to back. And then you had another 2 rows on the outskirts that were about halfway full, halfway down. And then you had all the parking spots across in front of Advance Auto, almost going all the way down to Sharps. And then they had cars still coming in and going and things like that. So great turnout for Sauk Village and getting people into our community. Advance Auto had a great sale going on that day, because if you bought something during that time, you got $5 off. So they were going to try to get people in. So yeah, we had that going on this last week. We got the yard sale going on today, and probably should make some notes. I can't remember everything, but keep an eye out. There's things all throughout the summer. talk a little bit about, think about your questions. I'll tell you some of the things that we're working on. Of course, as everyone knows, we put together what we call white pages. We send it off to Springfield looking for money and things. So the latest set of white pages that we had put together was sidewalk repairs. We put in for an estimated of $200,000 for sidewalks. Let's see here. We put in for an estimated playground equipment improvements of $180,000. And we put out like Rainbow Park and Astor, showing me some pictures and stuff there. Let's see here. We continue hitting Springfield for fire hydrant repairs and stuff. So we put in for an estimate of $410,000 for fire hydrants. And we put in for an estimated cost of $20,000 for our street signs. We call it desires to improve the street sign visibility by providing direct illumination for these signs. So if you go through areas of towns like Frankfurt, Richmond Park, you'll see that they have signs, that their street signs are lit up. You can see that at night. So again, we will continue hitting Springfield. I'll be going down to Springfield, I think, next month. I'll be back down there again. Everyone knows Springfield has some problems going on. They've got their inner fighting. They've got the power struggle. So we know that the governor's put a hold on a lot of things already. You'll see probably again this week there'll be more articles coming out. He's putting more holds because the closer we get to, was it July 1st, where the budget ends, the more the governor's going to start shutting stuff down. So we'll find out exactly what he's going to shut down and how it's going to affect, especially municipalities. But he's already put his pen to quite a bit of stuff that is automatically, maybe for a priority heard. He's already talking about shutting down all the museums, anything that's state ran. They're talking about July 1st, a lot of people won't have jobs because they'll be on layoff. They're talking about things that are state funded that are going to stop issues for like nonprofit organizations and for colleges, things like that. You know, right now, as of right now, we're pretty confident, and we've been assured that they won't stop our sales tax and income tax and things like that, because that should continue coming to us. When I say to us, to the municipalities. But we're watching that very closely because I think we have a new governor in place, and the governor is definitely drawing a line in the sand, I guess you could say. And we're going to see, the House and the Senate is definitely going to be butting heads with the governor here pretty shortly. We're going to see some major issues happening in Springfield. So hopefully they can sit down and get things worked out. I think about it, it's not just in those small municipalities, and, it's at the state levels. We've seen it in the federal level, where different branches of government end up, hitting heads. So I've got no doubt it's going to end up working out. I think it's one of those things that's going to take a little bit of time. We said probably, what did we say at the beginning, six months we thought it was going to affect us. We'll see. He's been in office for what? I can't remember. So he's been in office for a few months. So, I've seen him I've seen this governor more face to face than I saw our previous governor. I've been in the city of Chicago 3 times now. Of course, with myself, but with other mayors. We met with him in Springfield twice already. So 5 times, and we're heading back down to Springfield next month. So make sure we stay in front of him. We continue pushing that he releases our loan money, the grant money for our loan. So we continue pushing that, and we'll continue to bend our ears of our state representatives. One good thing is we've got 3 state representatives that cover Sauk and we've got 2 senators. So we've got a good voice. And that's not to mention senators and representatives we used to have. We still got Toy Hutchinson, who's no longer our senator. She's still very much in Sauk Village. We've got Catherine Dubuque, who's no longer our state representative. He's very much involved. And, whenever I send stuff out to our state representatives or our senators, I still make sure I copy them, so they know what's happening in Sauk Village. So, all right. What else we got? Yeah. Really, I say this every time, just about, try to get your neighbors out, try to get people out. I think sometimes when you don't see people come out, or especially living here so many years, you find out when people come out, it's because they're upset, right? It's usually when you see them much, you come to a board meeting. You've got your same normal people that come to a board meeting, but whenever you see a new group come in, it's like you're wondering, what happened, where are they from? Because you know there's an issue. You have to really rile people up to get people to come out with things like this. And we still want to hear from people. That's what's important. Go ahead. Yes.
I think we're at a point, though, with our things that are going on. The grandstanding has to stop. We need to take care of the business at hand and make the people understand there is business at these meetings, and you need to go forward with that business. And if you have an issue, you've got all these people, make an appointment, come see them, talk to them, then let them handle that. But this getting up and grandstanding every week is garbage.
Yeah, I agree. But first of all, I think the residents need to make sure they have their voice heard, number one. Number two, it is a time of business. I had someone come to me the other day and I said, I'd love to see the people that come to the meetings and want to disturb it. I'd love to see them go to Springfield and try to do the same thing during open session. They would have 2 sergeant of arms coming out, they'd be dragging them out. And they could say all they want, I pay your salary, you better listen to me, you know what, they'd still be dragged out, and they'd probably be sitting in jail for probably more than a couple nights. I just think it's kind of humorous sometimes, but you're right. A business meeting, a board meeting is a time to get business done. And, is there questions and comments? Yes, there is. Is there time for that? Yes, there is. And we're going to continue trying to make sure we run meetings in order and decorum. And, we're definitely not going to go back to what we saw in the previous administration. There was things that were set in place because of things happened in the previous administration. The limiting the residents from talking, or eliminating their questions and their comments to a time limit. There was a lot of thought brought into that. There was a lot of discussion. There was looking at what other communities they're doing. Even when you go down to Springfield, you go talk before a appropriations ordinance committee or a budget committee, or you go talk to if you even get time to get on the floor to say something, you have a time limit. When you go down there, you see these great big digital clocks. You have a time limit. So, you think about this in the last 2.5 years, we've had very few meetings where there hasn't been a time limit. But we just saw just a few weeks ago where we had a meeting where there was no time limit, where people could talk as much as they wanted. That meeting, when we recessed, ended up being people swinging at each other and fighting and yelling and screaming. And we haven't seen that in over 2.5 years. So, there's no way I'm looking at going back to the way it was. Is there times we're going to have long meetings? Yes, we're going to have long meetings because there's discussion, there's things that happen, and that's part of business. That's part of going back and forth on how we get things done. But, to get to the point where we had to have a police officer, 2 police officers, Cook County police officers sitting in the audience, I'm not looking forward to going back to that again. And we'll continue to do our best to make sure it doesn't happen again. People get 3 minutes, they come up, if they have any other questions or comments, they can give it to the trustees, they give it to the department heads. Think about this, we've got more meetings now than any other administration. And the reason we set, especially these new committees up, is to address issues that residents have had. You think about, I'm on my notes here, but the committees we set up, some of them are still the same when it comes to ordinance reviews, when it comes comes to community and public relations, those are still the same. Sauk talk about it, right? If you think about this, community and public relations is still public relations, but it's dealing with community. These are important issues. The Public Works of Michigan water committees, those are important. We've heard residents talk about that. They want to know about, infrastructure. They want to know what's going on. We put these committees together to look at, what's happening, to come back to the board and make recommendations. Public safety orders review is still there. It deals with public safety. Neighborhood watch is still there. Parks and recreation is still there. Budget and finance committee. People have questions about what's happening with our finances and what's those are being paid. This committee is set together so they can look at accounts payables, they can look at what's being paid. People can come and talk to that committee. Again, I've already talked to, or I haven't talked to anyone, I've been looking into, this next year. We've always done budget hearings the same. I'm looking I'm considering at this time right now. Again, we'll look into it. We'll see what the communities are doing. At the state level, what do they have? They have a budget and appropriations review committee, right? Where it's done at a different location. The public hearing, residents can talk to senator or state representatives and senators, especially at the Senate appropriations committees and things like that. It's not the whole entire. They're not going to Springfield, and it's not the whole entire session, open session. It's a good thing for budget and finance committee to be able to have these public hearings. And they can come back with recommendations to the board, things like that. So we're looking into, again, doing some things a little different, but at the same time, trying to get more information from the residents. They could have multiple meetings, things like that. And again, I guess you can call it a little bit of oversight. Some people look at it in a way, but it allows them to find out, especially when we get ready for accounts payable. And again, I'm going to be putting more responsibility on these trustees. And that's what it should be. If someone comes up and says, I got a question about the accounts payable, I'll turn around and say, well, I got two trustees here. Trustee Tate, answer the question. We got Trustee Burgess here today. Someone comes back and says, I want to know what you're doing about the infrastructure and water main breaks or things like that. I got Trustee Burgess. A lot of people say, well, Mayor, you answer all the questions. So, maybe the trustees need to answer a little bit more. 2 years ago, people called trustees bobbleheads, because I was answering all the questions. The trustees knew the answers, and the trustees can talk to me all the time, asking questions. So now, we'll put it to the trustees. So when it comes across the floor of the ordinance, we'll say to Trustee Marsh. Someone asks a question about neighborhood watch, Trustee Washington. There'll still be some things that I answer. There'll be some things I don't answer, especially when it comes to personnel, when it comes to threat to pending litigation, things like that. Those are things that we're not going to respond to. And we're not going to open ourselves up to, especially any additional litigation. We've worked hard to reduce litigation. Our litigation costs are starting to go up again. And why is it? Again, going back to the previous administration. Going back to, think about this, the majority of our lawsuits are coming from what? Those employees. There's no reason for it. So, and that information will get out. Trust me. We're gonna put that information out. People want transparency and they want to know what's going on. Well, let them know that the people that these former employees and employees who are suing us, that's the reason we've got high costs. So I guess as a politician side, I kind of ran, but how about anything else? You're too quiet today.
I just got up.
I'm sorry?
I just got up.
That was one of the complaints I had. They said I should move this to like 11 o'clock so people, and the funny thing is I'm an early bird. Throughout the week, I'm up about 4:30.
Oh.
4:30 in the morning. I'm running around the house waking the kids up. They're getting upset with me. But I guess it's just the way I raised. The dad used to always say the early bird gets the worm, right? I heard that one. But again, I'm an early person. I'm usually at work in the mornings now. Sometimes 6:30. You know, there's some days that I might go a little bit later because I don't have to be there until 9 o'clock. But I go into work, I try to get my work done early so I can kind of get out a little bit earlier than everyone else does because, you know, I'm not a 9 to 5 person. You know, I'm a 4:30 to whatever type person. I got this new Fitbit. Anyone have these things? They're
I've
pretty
heard
neat.
about it.
Our work gave us this. We had to have bio screening or whatever, and where they do all your blood work. And so I went and did it. By doing it, they gave us a Fitbit for doing it. So these things are pretty neat. You know, I can go online and I can tell you exactly how many hours of sleep I'm getting a night, how much restless I am. I can tell you how many calories I'm burning throughout the day, how many steps I've walked. I can even go on there and log my meals, and they'll tell you, you know, exactly how many calories you ate for the day. I can log how much water I drank. It's amazing. I tell you, my grandparents were alive. They talk about Big Brother. But I've been checking it out. So I average 4 hours sleep a night, and I'm pretty consistent every week. It averages out to 4 hours sleep a night. So, and I wake up about an average of 12 times a week. So, it's pretty interesting, you know, what they can find out. So, you know, I usually remember waking up about 2 or 3 times a night. I don't remember waking up an average of 12 times a night, but my wife tells me I do, so. And a lot of times I'm waking up because I'm thinking of things I have to do, you know, so she'll say, I'll be waking up and I'll be saying, I'm talking to one of the department heads, or another time I'm talking about doing a rework at work, or, so, I think sometimes I wake up yelling at the kids, but. Everyone get to Sauk Talk?
Yes.
Sauk Talk's out? This came out, I think, was it last week or almost? All right. Anybody want to talk about, you know, the hot issues in the dispatch center, right? So let's talk a little bit about dispatch center. I think with anything, there's always ups and downs. There's always, especially when you have something new. You find out where your issues are. Since we brought the new dispatch center on, we've been having weekly meetings. Sometimes there's two meetings a month, or 2 meetings a week. We, whenever an issue comes up, we call for a special meeting. So I personally met with Kurtz probably maybe 3 or 4 times on issues that has happened. Again, you know, this was supposed to be a smooth transition. We had met with the union, we had set up agreements for new ones in negotiation. And let's go back a little bit and talk about how this happened. Okay, this next year's budget was projecting about a $600,000+ budget for the dispatch center alone. Okay, if you look at the police department over there, you've got the police department budget, you've got the dispatch center. Okay, police department budget's what, over $3 million, I think. I don't have it in front of me. Dispatch center for about approximately 5 employees was about $600,000. Went to the village board, and of course, for the last 2 years, we've been approached by joint dispatch centers and saying, well, we can save you money. I've talked to other mayors and said, man, we just went to a joint dispatch center and we saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. So came to the board. The board said, go ahead and get the information. So we went and brought the information, and initial cost was way over $300,000 cost savings. Now, looking at it, we went back to the union, and we were open to the union and said, here's what we have. It's a cost savings of over $300,000. Right now, you're estimating about $600,000. You know, we gave the union the opportunity to either meet or beat the current proposal for a joint dispatch center. Union came back and said there's no way they can do it. They were unwilling to take cuts. The union came back and said, we'll take a 0% raise this next year, and that's as far as it will go. So we knew we were still over $600,000 budget for dispatch center. So we were honest with the union, so okay, this is the way we're going. And since you can't do it, so we're not going to renew your contract. There was once we said you're not going to renew your contract, then you have to go into a mediation, because the union is going to say what you're going to do for those employees, since they're going to be without a job. So some of the things we did was we reached out to other joint dispatch centers, we reached out to police departments that would have some dispatchers without jobs. With all the 3 dispatch centers, joint dispatch centers we worked with, we want to make sure that they would give our employees opportunity to work for them. They all said they would do that. In fact, all of our dispatchers were given an opportunity to work with Kurtz. Every one of them turned it down. So we went ahead and moved forward with the entire process, bringing them in, looking at proposals. All the proposals were, a little bit different. You had Buds who wanted to come in and run our dispatch center right through here to our own police department. But we knew there was too many problems. We already had, it was over $2 million worth of improvements we had to do to our dispatch center. So we knew that there was no reason for them to come in here and run it. They needed to make sure they could run it from their own. Then they came back and said they could probably run it from their own. There's going to be some work going on. At Lansing, who had dispatch center. Problem with Lansing is they've got additional work that has to be done in there, and they're looking for other communities, because right now there's only 3 communities in Lansing. 3, I think it's 3. And with the additional work they do is they split the cost among the communities. So they're looking at the first improvement was $1 million, which is going to happen immediately. So every community, I think maybe we're going to be the 3rd community. No, we were going to be the 4th community. So every community would have to come up with $250,000 automatically. So we knew they had problems there. They still have to do the same upgrades that we have to do. And at the same time, they're looking at totally moving their whole entire facility, which was estimated, I think, around $4 million, which is looking at all the communities to come up with money to help them move into their new facility. We looked at Kurtz. Kurtz had, and the other thing too was Linwood had a cost by call. So we know from the village board meetings our call volume goes up every single year. Remember, we used to give call volumes. Talk about we did so many calls, and at this time last year we did this many calls, so we know our call volumes are going up every year. When we looked at Kurtz, Kurtz gave us a yearly fee of about, I think, don't quote me on this, like $285,000. Linwood also was only a 1 year. Kurtz gave us I think it was 5 years. Locked in price, and then there's a percentage that can go up every year. And I don't think it can exceed like 2 or 3%. Again, a lot of stuff is out there, so we can take a look at it. The other thing too that made Kurtz and Calcom such a great deal is whatever dispatch center we went with, we had to do the improvements of our own. We had to change, right now we're on what we call New World. We had to change our dispatch center, dispatching to whatever those communities were using. Okay? There's a major cost in that. Major cost if we have to do any changes to any of our equipment, our current equipment. Number one, we know that our laptops and our police cars, they're all old. We know that our equipment that our employees have needs to be replaced. And what Calcom and Kurtz gave us was the first 4 months we don't have to pay as a credit to put all the new equipment and new software and hardware in our village that we need to get. It's a major cost. It was approximately $100,000 worth of cost. This is something that none of the other dispatch centers gave us. So we were going to have to change over to dispatch center, and we know we have about $100,000 costs. We've also been talking to Calcom, especially the mayor over in Cal City, is they want to make sure they help us out. So, if we find that the cost exceeds $100,000, they want to know so they can see what they can do to help us out. So, there's meetings going on weekly, looking at what improvements have to be done, what expansions, software we need, reaching out to the companies to find out the cost, how long it's going to take, things like that. So So that's another reason why, you know, I know there's a lot of talk about Kurtz, there's a lot of talk about who the board went with. There was a lot of consideration. And, to be honest with you, it was 13, 14 years ago we switched over from ambulance services, right? Sauk Village used to have a full-time ambulance service. Now, if you can remember back that far, at that time, ambulance service was costing Sauk Village $240, almost $250,000 a year for us to have our own personal ambulance service, right? We brought in buds for about approximately $40,000, I think back then, $44,000 to $45,000. It was cost savings of about $200,000. And I know a lot of people were upset back then. You know, I was sitting on the board when that vote came through. But we have buds in here now. And some people like them, some people don't. Some people don't think they're fast enough, some people don't think. But the thing is, we're still providing a service. Dispatch center, we're still providing a service. Now, it would have been very easily, because I've been dealing with buds for 13, 14 years, very easily tried to sway people to say, let's go to buds, because they're already here. But it wasn't that way. It was looking at the best cost, the best price, and what the village, what's best for the village residents and what's best for the village. So, you think about the cost savings, over a $300,000 cost savings, number one. Number two, we know we have over $2 million worth of improvements that have been done to our dispatch center. And number three, Calcon giving us the first 4 months as a credit to go towards the work that has to be done. So, there's a lot more here. And again, whenever we get all the information, there's so many people that don't think we should keep our own dispatchers. You know, and I would love to. The thing was, I was a cadet on the police department for how many years? You know, I knew all those guys and ladies. So, if there's anyone who likes to keep people, I mean, I like to keep people, but when it comes down to cost, what are we supposed to do as we are elected officials? We're supposed to serve you, and we're supposed to make sure that we spend your money wisely, right? So it's about spending it wisely.
Even though when this transpired and all those dispatchers were offered positions and they turned it down, I can't understand that. If you want a job, there's a job. But when you say no, you have to look at another picture. And when you look at our people that we've had, you know, now you've got 2 pair of husband and wives that were working together. That in itself could be a detriment. When you have a wife that's a dispatcher, a husband that's a police officer out there on the street. What if he was involved in a very serious, I mean, that's a scary thing to think about. If he's out there on the street, she's on dispatch, something tragic happens. That's scary. And we had 2 pair of that. We've got people that have been there for a lot of years. We've got people that were on the street working as a patrolman or an officer. And then now he's in dispatch. You would feel like if they want the work, there's a job there. And if you turn it down, that makes me wonder, were they totally 100% qualified, but yet they were offered training to get whatever they would need? I just don't understand how you could say, well, no, you know it's going to happen. Sure, it's upsetting, but you've got an alternative here. You don't have to sit there and do nothing.
And again, Kurtz was willing to do whatever it took to, if they weren't qualified, to bring them up to a qualification meetings for the training and stuff like that. And you're right, we did have a lot of old-time dispatchers. You know, the other thing too is this, I started to mention earlier, this was supposed to be a smooth transition. When we sat down with the union, when we think about the stuff that we did was providing free severance, insurance for those 3 months, help them with job placement. There was a lot of things, and all we asked for was a smooth transition, make sure that Kurtz, when they came in, they had everything. You know, we still stuck to our deal. You know, and I'll be honest with you, I could have very easily said, you know what, you just stick to your deal, it's done. But you know what, I didn't, because, again, I've known all these people. And I understand when someone comes in and takes your job, the animosity and the bitterness
And we had some really good dispatchers.
We did.
And that's upsetting to think that they wouldn't want to go to a facility that's as up to date and walk into a place that is state of the art. And just I've been hearing different things about their facility. The quiet room, oh my gosh, that is phenomenal. My son dispatched for years, and to have a place, if you have a bad house, I can remember when the Ireland fire burned. My son was working at that time, and to have a place you could get up and go sit down, have a cup of coffee, go sit down where it's quiet.
Right.
That is a phenomenal thing to offer your people. Hey, go sit down for a few minutes and get away from that phone, get away from that tragic stuff. That is I mean, there's so many good things that we aren't hearing a lot about that yet.
There is, and I know some of the village board has seen a new site. We started getting our department heads over to the new site. We're having some of the meetings weekly at the new site. And I don't know if we're going to get village residents over there because 911 centers are so, it's important that they stay the way they are so people can't go and they can't target them, okay? So I don't know if we're going to get village residents over there, but I have talked to Calcom and I have talked to Kurtz about maybe once we get up and running and everyone's over there, if we get some more pictures and we'll add an update to the board and they can do a presentation and say, here's what it is now that's running, here's your dispatchers working, here's pictures of the areas that they're working in. Because I don't ever think we're ever going to have a full-blown tour for residents to go through. That probably never happened. With Calcom, there's going to be other communities going in. I think if I remember right, they were set up for 8 communities. And it's the next generation. They already have everything in there is the next generation when it comes to state of the art. So that's pretty impressive.
And isn't the thing set up where the more people that go to their system, that affects our cost?
Yes.
That's what
Yep, that's one thing we talked about and negotiated. They get other communities getting our costs lower. And another thing too, you think about, there's not going to be no work that has to be done inside this. As communities come on, we're getting everyone state-of-the-art next generation. Where these other joint dispatch centers we're going into were previous generation that knew they had to be upgraded. So it was not going to automatically a cost to this. There's no cost in this. And then of course the cost of switching over, and we're getting credit to pay for the switch over. So they made it very clear they want to make it as easy as possible. Remember, we're coming on board. They want to use us as a poster child. So once we're up and running, they're going to have other communities contact us and they say Sauk Village, how good was Calcom when you joined them? So they're trying to make sure that everything's as smooth as possible. And in some of these meetings that we're having, they're also making sure that that the work gets done, needs to get done. They were trying to push to move everything over by July 1st, and it's going to now be August 1st. I think it's August. The reason for that is because they want to make sure that everything is in place, and they don't want to make the move until they know for sure that there's not going to be any issues. So there's going to be some additional testing going on and things like that to make sure that when the switch goes over, it's going to be seamless and no one's going to even feel the effects. Kind of like our water. If the game went real nice, well number 3 went on, right? Well number 3 got all done. Did a bunch of testing, make sure everything, and when they went off and they turned it on, I didn't hear anyone say they had a problem or had a stoppage of water. We didn't have any issues, right? We went to this dispatch center and did the same way. And if it takes longer than August 1st, we'll push it out September 1st. We'll push it out, I don't care how long it takes, and I made it very clear. And the mayor over in Cal Park is the same way. He goes, if it's not ready, we're not moving. We're going to make sure that everything is in line. So we'll keep our center staffed until they know for sure that everything's going to be a smooth transition.
How will our building be used after the transition period? Once that's all done, this will mainly be for the officers, or how will that?
That's a good question. It's still gonna remain the same, it's goes through the police department. We have, our records, you've got your police officers, your sergeants, your administration, detectives, things like that. So still gonna be a lot of work going on there. One good thing, and a lot of people, we haven't really talked about it, was our records were in really bad shape. Because everyone knows that Emily passed away this last year, and she was our records clerk. We brought on 3 part-timers, which were supposed to help take over records, and found out later that they were being used in the dispatch center because they felt that they needed to know how to use the New World system first before they could do records. And there was just some issues there where they were supposed to be doing records. We knew we had a problem when Markham was calling our attorneys because they were not getting our records. We started receiving a lot of complaints from residents saying, you know, I just need a police report so I can file with my insurance company. And nothing was getting done. And when we brought Kurtz in, one thing Kurtz has been generous to do is taking our part-timers and training them on records. And there's a lot of things that they had to go through and get the fingerprints. There's things that should have been done that had not been done yet. You know, they said they have to get them in the system. They have to send their fingerprints and stuff in. So Kurtz came in and did that. Kurtz is doing all the training of our part-timers. And we are almost completely up to date on our records already. Kurtz has come in and helped us. They have one of the part-timers, one of the Kurtz dispatchers that are working here in Sauk Village is the records clerk for, I think it's Richmond Park. It's one, say Richmond Park or Park Forest or something like that. So she was able to come in and help. The other thing too is Kurtz is they stepped up to the plate was helping us with getting our court in line. We were getting ready to go into court and none of the paperwork was done. They came and got the paperwork done. It even came and sat and did all the paperwork for us during one of our court hearings. So if you were sitting in the audience, you probably saw the new girl sitting up there next to Sherry. She was making sure that all the proper documentation was done. So I think we're pretty much, last look at was we're pretty much all up to date. You know, we figured when Kurtz came in, they walked into a room with stacks of paper all through the room. Nothing was filed. Things like people are just going in and just throwing stuff on stacks. So there's a lot of things that we found out that we had to address. And again, a lot of people, you might hear, I'm trying to go in and take over everything, right? It's one of the craziest things I've ever heard. What I'm trying to do is make sure things are done right, and in order. You know, I'm not the one doing the work. You know, I can't tell you how to do the records and put them straight. You know, I can't tell you how to do anyone's job here. My job as being the chief CEO is to make sure that things are getting done, make sure people are in line, right? When something's brought to my attention, I've got no problem going down and saying, get this taken care of. I'm not going to be the one taking care of it. I'm the one directing, right? So, you know, there's a lot of things happening this last year. You know, we've got our safety committee, you know, and I got a call from our safety committee, you know, the insurance company, and said, we've got this problem, this problem, this problem in the police department. What are you going to do about it? I said, well, that's a good thing I'm in town today. I said, I'll take care of it right now. I was close to town. As I was coming back, I was calling Kevin Moe, Chief Stalker. This was last year, so Tim Williams was still here. And I grabbed Mo on, and I got in town. I said, guys, I said, told Mo, I said, I will be back in town in the next 30 minutes. I said, meet me in my office. While they were meeting in my office, they were faxing me all the information, all the photos and everything I take care of it. So I sat everyone down and I said, I got all this information. I said, okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a walk over to the police department and take a look at this stuff. And we went for a walk through. And we assigned stuff for people to do. And it's like, Tim, you find someone to take care of this. Kevin, you take care of this. You know, fire chief, You make sure someone comes back through, and make sure this work's being done. You know, so, again, I'm not the one physically doing the work, but when it's brought to my attention, I make sure it's done. You know, or I do my best to make sure it's done. I'm not the one following up. You know, when it brought to my attention that our records was in disarray. You know, what did I do? I went and reached out to Kurt's, said, because Kurt's also was one brought to my attention. I said, what can you do to help us? I said, we don't have any records. Clerk, the 3 or 4 people we brought in that were supposed to be trained on the records, I'm being told now they were never trained on the records. You know, even though I was being told that they were. I said, what can you do to help us? And they came in, they stepped up to the plate and helped us. So, again, there's a lot of things that happen that way. You know, I don't come in to try to take over a department. I don't want to run a department. I've got my own life, I've got my own job, I've got things in the village I got to run. I don't want to run a department also. So, I've heard people tell me, I hear you're trying to take over this department or this department. No. That's crazy.
I attended our night session court last week or whatever it was, and it ran very smooth compared to where it had been previous. And I was glad to see that the adjudicator, I think there were only 2 people that walked out of there that were not held up to what they had to pay. So there's finances coming back in through that court. And of course, we still have a lot of people that just ignore it. So I think with our new thing where they're going after these people, that's going to be a major help, I would think, to go back. And these people that owe thousands of dollars, hold them accountable. If you owe, you pay.
You bring
If you don't.
You bring up a good point, because we were receiving complaints that people were coming in here and walking out and not paying anything. Adjudicator wasn't doing what you're supposed to be doing. Well, again, I'm not going to do the adjudicator's job. I'm not going to tell him he has to find people, because we put someone in that place that's looking at best interest, number 1. Number 2, they're there to be the judge, I guess you'd say, over the case, and I'm not going to influence them. But what we did find out was, going back to our records were not in place. So when someone came before the adjudicator, they were asking for information, and there was no documentation. And the documentation the adjudicator had before him showed that the person could be let go. Because we could not provide the proof of evidence against the person standing in front of the adjudicator. So I think now with the records being all to date, with all this stuff happening, I think you're going to find out that our adjudicator is going to be able to do their job more efficiently, and we'll be able to provide the proof of guilt and the evidence against the person standing.
And the officer's out there doing his job.
Right.
So if they are guilty, you're guilty.
Right.
Hey.
It's
So if you don't
but
like it,
first we all know how court is. You have to
do
have
the crime, you pay the time.
But you know, we all know how court is. You have to have the evidence.
Right.
And we were not providing the evidence.
And there was a young girl there from, I think, that wore the red shirt, and she did a good job getting the paperwork for the adjudicator. So she did fine, and it ran really smooth.
They're doing a good job training our part-timers, so that when they finally move over to Cal Park, we'll have one of our part-timers there working with them and doing the same thing that she's doing. So it's all about training. It's all about making sure that you give them the right tools that they need. All right, any questions? That's been holding the floor, man. I had a question the other night on streets that are coming up for rework. And I gave this answer to the resident, but I'll give it to you again. 2015, here's the streets of our CDG BEAP money. We have 216th Street from 216th Place to Jeffrey. We have Constant Avenue from Peterson Avenue to Peterson Avenue. We have 215th Street from Yates Avenue to Jeffrey Avenue. We have 223rd Place from Chappelle to Clyde. And we have 216th Court from Merrill to the cul-de-sac. Those are all the streets that are supposed to be scheduled to be finished this year. I think some of the construction may have already started. we've got the additional turning lanes that are going in there. You're going to see widening of the road. That's probably something I should bring out. I think in the next meeting I'll bring it out. The maps showing the work that's going to happen on 394 and Sauk Trail. So as you see, they're doing all the prep work now. You see the flags, you see the poles out there, the markings. I think they already put the stoplights up across 394 and Sauk Trail. So they're going to be taking all the poles down, doing all that work. As of right now, that work has not been affected by one of the stoppages by Governor Romney. And I say that as of right now, because every week he puts a stop to something else. I just got word yesterday that he's already stopped all letting IDOT projects. So, but current projects that are already in place or already being worked on, he hasn't stopped yet. So, again, that's another thing we're keeping a close eye on with the governor. And I tell everyone, I may not agree with everything the governor's doing. I can feel for the governor. Because I didn't come into a position where he as bad as he can. He's in the billions in deficit, right? That's with a B. Okay? I came in the millions with them. All right? You figure coming in and having invoices, not checks, but invoices for about $1.9 million. Sitting on the back list. And again, that's a moving target, because as you pay stuff off, you get more invoices come in, right? So that target can move. But as of about a month or two ago, I think it was last month, we were at about 452,000. I'll have to run another agent report to see where we're at, because it could be a little bit higher now, or it could be lower. It all depends on where we're at. It may be a little bit higher now because we didn't have any accounts payable last week. But again, I can feel for the governor as he's trying to do the right things, but at the same time, as a mayor, I think even as trustees sitting on the board, you want to see your money coming in, because we're providing services for the residents. What we do doesn't bring in a lot of revenue, right? You think about it, if your public works department out there is not bringing in revenue while they're working. We get water bill payments and things like that, but we're not a business that brings in a lot of revenue. So, we're not a manufacturing facility. We're not out there on the stock exchange, things like that. So, even though we're a business, we're a service provider. I guess you could say. I've heard that a lot lately.
In listening to the list of streets that are scheduled for this improvement, a good part are on the north side. How do they determine what streets are going to be set up?
That's a good question. I think there's determining factors. First of all, we look at what's our worst streets. Are these our worst streets? Probably not, because there's another step that steps into that. So first of all, Kevin goes off and he works with Jim Darn and says, here's our worst streets. Then they start looking at, I guess if you want to say, the overall, what's the word, what people make in those areas. They're looking at the poverty level, things like that, because we're getting these monies through CDGB, Community Development Block Grant. Probably have, and believe it or not, majority of our village is pretty well off, because our village residents make some pretty good money. But when you look at some of these areas here, these are areas that qualify because these areas don't make a lot of money. So that's pretty much how it qualifies. We provide all the information to the county to go through the grant, and they review everything and they come back. And every year we always ask for double the amount, right? So like for the $200,000 we got this year, we put in $400,000 for the projects. It's just what we do every year. I think it's a game. We always end up usually getting about half of what we apply for.
Put 220 first on that next one.
Yeah. I think 221st been on this for a long time. You all better make too much money.
Gee.
Between you and Ed, I think you guys tip it. If you have any questions, oh, I know, here we go. Enbridge, ever seen the work going on?
Oh,
Enbridge?
yes.
All right. I got pictures, I'm gonna get some on my Facebook page, but they came in and gave a presentation. Okay, this kind of gives you a little bit of what's that. I'll get these pictures on my Facebook page if you want to see them. And as you think about this, they call it Line 78, right? And this is going all the way from Flanagan here in Illinois all the way to the Griffith facility. So you see the work going on. If you look at off the 394, if you see they're coming up underneath the bridge over here on Torrance, they took the railroad tracks out. They're going all the way to Griffith over here, and it goes down on the other side of 394. It's going straight through the corridor where all the power lines and stuff are. So Enbridge has been a good steward to our community. Okay, when this started, probably over a year ago, I sat in meetings with Enbridge, quite a few meetings. And I mean, when they first came in, to give you an idea, when they first came and said, hey, we're going to put this Line 78 pipeline, we just want to get your sign off on it. And the first thing I looked down and I said, oh, that's going right through the middle of our TIF number 3. And then I said, we've got future planning for buildings going there. I said, can any buildings go on top of this line? Oh, no, nothing on top of it. So they came to the Village Hall. I put all of our TIF number 3 planning maps. And we laid it out, and we laid their map on top of the table. And it was cutting through the middle of 3 of our sites that we said we were going to have potential building on. So, you know, we went through meeting after meeting after meeting to be able to get to what they're going to do now. Whereas if you see it, they're going right on the side of our wires. They're turning. They're going behind the wires tree service. And they're going right up to ditch line, all the way up 394. Rather than coming across and cutting straight across the center of ours, they're now going up, across, and down. Which ended up saving you know, our property. I mean, they could have came through and they had every right. They had already had intimate domain rights to come in and just take the property. The state had already issued it to them. But they were the stewards to our community, saying, no, we want to make sure we do this right. And we went through meeting after meeting. Their engineers probably drew, without exaggeration, 4 or 5 different plots until we came down to the one that we said would be best for our community. So, you know, it talks about here in this, it talks about the construction activities, and it gives you step by step of what they do, all the way from what the land looks like, all the way to the very end, they're restoring the land that they disturbed. You know, you see them bring these great big trucks with all this wood, right? They take this wood and they make a wooden road. That way it doesn't disturb the ground underneath and the foliage and things like that. So they're good stewards to not only to the village, but to our land. So appreciate all the work that they've done. And one of the main people that we deal with is a Sauk resident. That's amazing. He's a great guy, and we get along very well. We're looking at, we've got some grants that Enbridge has helped to put some of our kids through college. So we've been working with them, putting together the requirements for them. And I guess you don't have to be a kid. I mean, if an adult qualifies. But the grant money will help put kids through Prairie State College. They've already given us one amount. I think it was $1,000 through my district plan. You know, we don't get that money. Just want to make sure we're clear. They're not giving us checks and saying go send kids to college, right? What we've done is actually I've attended 2 presentations at Prairie State College, where they presented the checks to Prairie State College. I said this is on behalf of both Sauk Village and Crete. So we worked very well with both our communities. So I was there with the mayor of Crete, I think, both times while we were there. So we were able to get the Prairie State College. I think we were named Terry Winfrey, president of Prairie State College. I just saw her 2 weeks ago. And she's excited about potential more stuff coming down from Enbridge. Both for Sauk Village residents and Crete residents. So we're excited about that. So again, like I said, Enbridge has been great to the Village of Sauk Village. We've got 2 of our vehicles that we use for the administration and for public works. They just gave us those vehicles. And it's one of those things where we didn't ask for it. You know, they just said, hey, we've got some vehicles. give to communities every once in a while. Do you have any need for community, for vehicles? And I said, yes. So we're always in need of vehicles. And next thing I know, we got a call and said, we got 2 vehicles here for you. So they've always been hopeful in the community. They've always been involved in special projects and events for the village. I know that they helped Parks and Recs. Remember the night they came and gave $1,000 to Parks and Recs for new balls and things like that for the community center. They've been very helpful. All right. Wow. Well, it's let's see if I got a list of questions for people who's not here, so I was kind of see if they showed up. But let's see here. Question came out was school is out, laws and codes are not enforced, curfew, and jaywalking. I think jaywalking is always a question, right? We see kids all the time in the streets. Probably nowadays we don't just see kids, we see adults. The thing that really get me is the adults that are pushing their baby carriages or holding their little kids by the hands walking through the street. Again, when it comes to the police department, we always talk about number 1, police officer discretion. You know, if the police officer has time, we definitely want them to stop and tell people to move over. And I know some people say, well, I never see a police officer do it. I personally saw a police officer once told a bunch of kids. And the thing was, because I wanted to see if he did it, so I stopped on the side of the road. I was getting ready to turn on 223rd. And I saw these kids, and I saw a police officer turn and went this way. So I sat there and watched him. Because I want to see, because I get complaints all the time, jaywalking. Police officer pulled up, and I hear him get on the loudspeaker. I said, just get on the sidewalk. He said it pretty nicely. Right nicer than I would have, because they're walking on the street here on the police car. I would think if I saw a police car, I would have moved. I see the kids slowly walk through the grass, get on the sidewalk. The police officer went down, he went up over the hill towards St. James. I just sat there and watched them. I was down by Strasburg. And as soon as I saw a police officer go over the hill, what do you think they did? Right in the street. So, you know, I do see police officers doing their job. The other thing you have to remember is police officers are going to calls. We just heard about Tuesday night, 600 and some calls. Right? I got it written down in my notes. And the type of calls that we've got, you know, for a small community, this is the second time the deputy chief has talked about prostitution in our community and the arrests that they made. Second report. And I think it's like it was the second report in a row. You don't think of stuff like that in our small community, do you? You know, you think about stuff like that in the city. You know, for my previous job, I traveled to Las Vegas all the time. We had a facility in North Las Vegas. And there was nothing to see prostitutes standing on the corner in Las Vegas. You know, it's like you see in the movies. That's the way they looked in real life. You know, especially because I was in North Las Vegas. You know, and people think we have problems. You know, it's kind of humorous at the same time. As you went into North Las Vegas, they had this beautiful sign that says, "Welcome to friendly North Las Vegas," right? They had graffiti all over it. Now, and at night, I went back and sit in my hotel room, and on the news, all you would hear about is the shootings and things that's happening in North Las Vegas. And every morning I go to work and say, "Welcome to friendly North Las Vegas," right? So, but again, you don't think about things like that in your small community. You know, but it's out there, and these places are doing their job. And you think about the amount of calls that police officers are going to. Okay, you know, they're looking at. I'm going to go to a domestic. A kid walking in the street may not be as important because they probably know that if I stop and tell this kid, either they're going to get on the sidewalk or they're going to turn around, they're going to be confrontational and start fighting police officer. But they need to make sure they're domestic before someone, husband or wife, kills each other. Right? So we'll continue pushing the police department on the jaywalking and curfews. I was surprised. Was it Tuesday night I came from the board meeting? We're sitting in the backyard. Tuesday night. It's nice. My 2 oldest sons are back home now. So I've got 8 kids home now again. So kind of like my older kids being home, especially my boys, to be honest with you. But it's because I'm never home. And, you know, it's just a girl, especially when I'm traveling, you know, because there's a lot of crazy people out there. You know, and we were just talking about before the meeting started, you know, I'm starting to get a lot of threats, you know, because of crazy people, especially, and it's coming from Facebook. You know, I've got people on my push charges. I'm not pushing charges yet. You know, one of these days someone's going to push me. But, you know, I probably get threats, you know, messages through Facebook, or someone's posting something on one of my posts, or making threats, probably, you know, 2-3 times a week. Okay, so, you know, I am glad that my older boys are home, because, you know, with me working on the Northwest Side, with my travel schedule, you know, it's just about every night. I don't even get to go home. Some nights I'll try to stop by the house to see how things are going, but that consists of walking in the house, dropping something off or picking something up and coming here, and then I end up coming straight to the village hall. Or I go to meetings representing the village residents. I go to a Sauk Mayor's Manager meeting, or I'm trying to think, there's some other things I went to this last week. I go representing the village. Okay, so, you know, it's nothing for me not to get home until, you know, after 9, 10 o'clock at night. So, knowing that I've got the older boys at home, I feel a little bit more, you know, I feel like my wife is a little bit more secure. And again, with me, I don't care if anything happens to me. A lot of people say, my wife says I'm selfish, because if something happens to me, I'm no longer around for her. But, you know, when it comes to my wife and kids, it's a little bit different. You know, they're not in this position I am. So, but like I said, you know, the threats are getting more and more, and I'm getting told more and more I got to start taking them a little bit more seriously. You know, but I've always been the type of guy, you know, if I get this way, they're mouthy, you know, if you're gonna do something, I'm right here. You know where I'm at the second Saturday every month. And like I said earlier, we talked a little bit before the meeting started. I don't care who you are. When you're in the top position, you're going to have this stuff happen to you. We talked about the President of the United States. He has people just like him and put stuff out about him every single day. How many threats do you think he gets? Now, he's got his own security detail. I don't. The governor, you know, people don't like him. He has stuff put out about him every day. He gets his threats. And of course, I'm always reminded he has his own security detail too. So, you know, I always tell my wife, I say, if you ever find me dead with a suicide note next to me, you know it wasn't suicide, because I'm never going to take my life. So, you know, again, one of these days I'm going to have to do something about it, probably. I mean, you know, the other day, my wife calls me at the work, says there's someone out front of our house taking pictures and things like that. Now, I'm on the Northwest Side, and it's probably a good thing I'm at work, because if I was at home, I'd go out there. You know, so, you know, and I've got cameras on the house. I've got extra security. I've got security in my house. I've got cameras on my house, and I got my voice on. So, you know, I got the one back from the Marines. He's a little bitty thing, but I'll tell you what, I wish I wouldn't want to mess with him. So, they trained him well. So, yes.
And that's, I think, the social media crap again plays into that.
Well, you know what, we've got social media today. What was it? It used to be topics years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back and you look at topics, there was people who used to put stuff out there about Roger Patton, used to put stuff out there about Ed Hazel, used to put stuff out there about Mark Collins. You know, back then it was called topics. Now we've got Facebook, you know, and who knows what it's going to be. You know, I think there's some other ones, Instagram and all these others that we're starting to come in. But, you know, Facebook probably in the next 5 to 10 years will be the thing that pass like topics was. It's going to be something new. You know, for a while we saw tweets come on Twitter, right? So, what that said, you know, people are going to say what they want to say. I don't get this one. I'm saying what they want to say. You know, the President of the United States had what percentage of popularity? He was down to about 30-some percent. He might get to about 40% now. So, hey, you're never going to get 100%. And you'd be doing really good if you get 50%. Let's see here, let's look at some of these other questions. Well, there's a thing on here about, list of them here, the bread giving out over at the community center. I talked to Trustee Jones, who has Parks and Recs. You know, Parks and Recs has many events that happen that is not a sanctioned Parks and Recs event, right? The giving out of the bread is not Parks and Recs giving out the bread. Respond Now is not Parks and Recs giving out the food. Line dancing is not Parks and Recs leading line dancing, right? Same thing with the bread going out, the bread. That is not Sauk Village or Parks and Recs. These are people that are using the facility to do this. So when I talked to Trustee Jones, you know, there's certain things that we do, right? Basketball program, that's Parks and Recs. If you have a problem with the basketball, now that Trustee Jones has it, he'll address that, okay? When it comes to the other things that are happening over there that are using our facility, what he can do is bring it to their attention, but it's not something that we, as a village, are personally running. So I had that complaint on here. I gave that complaint to Trustee Jones to take over because he's over Parks and Recs. So him and Trustee Washington, Parks and Recs. So, and I kind of giggled a little bit about that because she said something to me and it just came to my mind. I'm looking for those trustees to handle that. So I know that one of the things came across about this. So, you know, my job, I guess you could say, is I may have to pick up a phone and follow up and say, has the trustee ever contacted you? But you know, I'm not going to respond to the things that's happening in Parks and Recs when there's trustees that are over those functions. So, if anyone has anything while I'm going through this list, go ahead. I know you had a thing before the meeting started about the sweep. We talked a little bit about the sweep going on. The question came up about the money that was spent for that sweep. You know, as mayor, I admit the money was spent. It was over $5,000, $5,500 or something. But there's reasons behind that. And the reasons is that stuff was getting out that was not, at the time, privy to get out to the village residents. You know, this last year, I guess it'd be last year, or 2015, 2014, I think it was, you know, we lost a business coming to Sauk Village. And the reason we lost that business is because the information that this business owner provided to the board in executive session got out to Crete. In fact, Crete even contacted this business with all the information that they provided the village of Sauk Village. We had, I don't have all my notes in front of me, we had negotiations and stuff going on with the police departments and other unions. That information was getting out pretty much before we even got out of meetings. The dispatch center, we had the first one that provided information. That information got out to another community. With a lot of details. So, you know, as a mayor, I went to the trustees and said, number one, we're in executive session, this stuff is not supposed to go out. And I got across the board, trustees said, you know, we're not getting the information out. So, you know, looking at, well, if the trustees aren't giving the information out, I know I'm not giving the information out. The only sometimes the only information that's only going out is right here inside this room. You know, maybe we got bugs in here. Maybe someone has gotten stuff, because you can figure a lot of times, these rooms are open throughout the day. Anyone could walk in here easily, put bugs out somewhere, and then we would never know it. So, you know, got a hold of, you know, again, through recommendations, saying, you know what, there's companies out there that will come in and just double check your municipality. We had the building checked. They had a couple, if you want to call it hits, but there was no findings, which is good. Okay, but again, that kind of assures us that, you know, we don't have information getting out, you know, that shouldn't be getting out because someone came in and put a radio frequency or a little bug or something. And when you have a sweep of something like that, it's not something that goes public. Because if it goes public, people can turn them off, they can come in here before it happens and try to get things moved out of here if there was anything here. So it was very quick. It was something that we made a decision on because it's for the best interest. You know, especially when you're looking at businesses. Losing business was major to our community. This was a major loss. When it comes to dealing with personnel, you know, there's personnel issues that were getting out. It seemed like almost before we got out, I mean, residents would meet you as I'm walking in my office and said, so what is this about? You were talking about this employee? It's like, I just walked out of that room and how do you know what we were talking about, or what we're talking about? So, you know, there's a lot of things we wanted to make sure. And was it 5,000? What was $5,500 really justified? In my mind, I think it is. Because now we're rest assured that we don't have any other listing prices or anything back there, especially when we're dealing with important issues in our community. There's where I want to talk about the chief. I see, I've heard a lot of things, you know, about the chief. You know, currently we have deputy chief, and let's see, our police chief has been retired for how long? 2 months, maybe? 2 months. We still have all our chain of command in place, our deputy chiefs there. So, you know, when we looked at that, making sure that everything was in place, you know, it would probably be a little bit different if we didn't have a deputy chief in place. But the deputy chief is still a high rank. He still has the title chief behind deputies. He's not a sergeant, not a lieutenant. He's deputy chief. Here we are 2 months in, and we've already got resumes and things like that for police chiefs. Now, could I move a little faster? Yes, but there was no reason to. We had an election that was getting ready to happen. We have a new board that was coming on. I did not make any changes or anything until after the board was on. I hadn't made any changes, but we did put out we're accepting resumes for a police chief. That came on as soon as we had the new board on. So we posted that through Southbury Mayors and Managers. IML, which is the Illinois Municipal League. The Chiefs, I want to say Chiefs Journal or something like all Chiefs registered to. So we got the information on it, and we also did in the newspaper. So what's the next steps? I think JW said last week we had, what, 19 applications? I want to say 19, don't quote me on that. Or 19 resumes. So what I've done is put together a committee which consists of Trustee Washington, Trustee Tates, JW, the village administrator, and we've got Reed, who will be there to take minutes and things like that. So we've got the committee. As of June 15th, we are accepting no more resumes. Okay? After June 15th, today's what, 13th, 14th?
13th today.
So as of Monday probably at midnight, whatever we want to say, we're not accepting anymore. They have to the 15th. The committee will take the resumes. They will go through them. They will be, if you want to call it, the venting committee. They will do the interviews. And I'm the chief's position is an officer's position that is appointed by the mayor with consent from the village board. And there are certain steps you have to take, and I know very much what I have to do. So my next step is after the committee presents the applicants, is I will sit down with them personally to go through the interview process. I may reach out to the people who recommended them to try to get a little bit more information on them. And I will end up presenting an applicant to the board for approval. Now, what happens then? Then we go off and that person comes before the village board, we'll probably set an executive session, and the board gets to ask questions. So there's multiple layers that goes through there. Now, we're going to clear some things up. I probably didn't have to go through this large process. I know I didn't have to. Okay? As a mayor, state statute makes it very clear. The mayor appoints chief with consent from the village board. I could have went out, found an applicant, brought it to the village board, and said, I want to hire this person. And the village board could have did their interview, could have voted on it. Okay? I could have followed the steps. Okay? But I want to make sure that this was pretty much clear and open. You know, I'm not going to have I haven't seen any of the resumes. You know, people that sent me resumes through the email, I never even opened them. I sent them directly to JW. The ones that came in, all the applications went directly to the village administrator, JW. I haven't seen any of them. I can't tell you anything about the ones that applied. I can tell you about one, because this individual who wants to be chief had resumes sent here, sent me an email, and I was at Springfield. In fact, I was at the governor's mansion in Springfield, and they were waiting outside the gate, and they handed his resume to Anthony DeLuca when he walked through the gate and said, do you know Mayor Hanks? They were asking people going through the gate if they knew me, and asked him to give me his resume. Have I read his resume? No. Because I'm not going to be, I came back and I gave it to JW. I said, this person really wants to be chief. Here you go. So, the process is in place, and I think it's a pretty fair process. Now I'll look at the last ones that come before from the committee, and I'll review them and interview, and then bring individuals to the board for questions and things like that. We'll put it up for a vote. So, again, I think it's probably one of the best processes that we can probably think of when it comes to bringing someone in. And again, I'm looking for a chief that, one of the questions I had when we were putting all this together is, what are you looking for a chief? I'm looking for a chief that's going to bring more stability to our police department. I'm looking for a chief that will enforce the ordinances and policies of this community. I'm looking for a chief who's not going to be political. I don't want a yes man or a yes woman. I want someone who's going to go out there and fight crime. I want them to be tough on crime. That's some of the things when I was asked, what am I looking for in a chief? I'm looking for someone who's going to come in and, even though parts of our town are pretty good, there are parts of our town that are pretty rough, right? They need to have definitely some attention brought to it. So that's what I'm looking for. If you have any questions, I'm just going through some of these real quick and try to get them answered. Since Ted's back there taping it, we got it on tape, right?
We could take a break.
What's that?
We could take a break.
But how about we go through a couple more of these, and if we have to stop early, I'm still going to be here till 11. So, here's a question. And I think this was answered. This is one of the meetings I wasn't at. The budget, the new structure, committee meetings, does each person at the meeting get paid? Nothing has changed when it comes to pay. In fact, we can't change the pay when it comes to elected officials. The way it happens is it gets voted on and approved. If there is any changes, and the new pay raises or changes doesn't happen until you get reelected, or until the next person gets elected, right? So say the trustee said, I want to raise my pay to, or say I want to take a cut in pay, I want to change it to $100 instead of $125 per meeting. Trustees would still get paid $125 per meeting until the next election. The next one's coming in, would get paid, again, the next one's getting elected, would get paid $100. While the one's still sitting on the board, 3 and 3, would get paid $125 until they come back up for election again. So with the committees, the new structures, the chairperson of that committee, when getting paid, again, what we're trying to do is make sure we have a little bit more transparency, a little bit more out there for residents to go to, more people they can talk to, right? Getting 2 trustees on every single committee, so we have a chair and a co-chair. So, let's see, let's go through one more here. Talked a little bit about the parent bread already. I see this a couple times in here. Talked about transparency and talking about the mayor not doing things he's supposed to. I think what's important, I think we're trying to make it as transparency as possible. Again, with more meetings, with more trustees sitting on committees, giving residents more opportunity to come out and meet with residents, setting up committees that deal with key issues that residents are having issues with, and when it comes to what the mayor is supposed to do, what the mayor is not supposed to do, I think a lot of residents would be very surprised to find out the responsibilities and the powers of the mayor. I think a lot of people are misinformed. They have stuff set in their mind that they think, well, the mayor can't do this, the mayor can't do that. There's a lot of things that the mayor can do, and there's a lot of things that the mayor can't do. I'm very careful, and I try to be very careful, because number one, I know I serve the residents, and number two, I make sure that I'm out there representing the residents of Sauk Village. So, it comes down to, and I'll be honest with you, I'm human. There could be a day that I do something I'm not supposed to do. But again, I haven't come to that point yet, and hopefully I never do. I want to make sure that as a mayor, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And again, I don't like using, I never have like the mayor that has done, is to say, I can do this just because I can. I've never done that. I've tried to work with the village board, and we're not going to agree on everything. We never are. We're all human, right? Probably everyone sitting in this room could probably come up with something that every one of you disagree on. Probably the same subject. Okay? And I've always said it, it's okay to disagree with each other, these kind of people that are not disagreeable. As a mayor, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of things I could do. And when someone comes back and says something, I can say, there it is in black and white, I can do what you can do about it, but I don't. Just like the fact that looking at a police chief, I don't have to do it the way we're doing it. In fact, there's ways I can get around it by state statute. But where does that get us? It causes more fighting. It causes more problems within the board. There's no reason for it. So for me to do something a little bit extra doesn't hurt me. And again, we're only talking, he's been gone for 2 months. If this goes another month or another 2 months, what's 4 months? I work a job where I've seen people that's been laid off for half a year and they still haven't filled their position yet. Or they've retired and still haven't filled their position yet. Everyone wants to blow up because we have a police chief, we've been gone for 2 months. And we still have a deputy chief. So, again, I do my best to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing as the mayor. And I'll continue doing that. And sometimes what we do, you're not going to make everyone happy. Some people are going to think that you shouldn't be able to do that. But it's my job duties and my responsibilities are spelled out not only by state statute, but they're also spelled out by ordinance. So, and our ordinances, because we're a non-home rule community, cannot supersede state statute. So sometimes people need to make sure they look at it as, okay, our ordinance says you can do this, but you can't supersede state statute, what the state statute is saying. So you've got both things that you have to make sure you look at. So I have a whole bunch of other things that people ask questions about. One last thing, and then we're on. You guys can stick around if you want. I'm going to stick around until 11 o'clock. Is we just had these last rains, right? So a lot of rain came down really fast. We had some flooding in certain parts of town. We called out Public Works. Public Works came out. Again, with our unions, the way they are, we have to make sure we call out certain order, things like that, so it took a little bit longer. I think a lot of times, too, they were waiting for the rain to stop, you know, so it's not as dangerous for them to go out there. When it's raining, other things can be happening, you know, when again, electrocuted because you know the line's down. You don't walk into a very big puddle of water without knowing your surroundings, right? So, but we weren't the only community that got hit with flooding. I mean, we got hit. We got hit not too bad, to be honest with you. When you look on the news and saw how Cedar Lake and Crown Point and St. John, these are communities that are just over the border, how bad they got it. They got hit really hard. So I think Ed, right down the street from here, you had a real bad flood. And in fact, I was driving home from the community center that night. I'm not in the front from the village hall. I was coming down the Sauk Trail. Can't remember what day it was. I had run home for a minute. And as I turned and looked down Orion, in fact, I stopped in the middle of Sauk Trail because I couldn't believe it. I watched this guy try to get around the water puddle. He drove up into the yard to drive. I literally stopped. And there was hardly any cars coming, so I'm glad I probably went ahead and watched this guy. And even when he was in the yard, his car was like underneath water as he was trying to go around. So you can imagine he was up around like that. So, but we ended up. I think the police were out there. I went home for a minute real quick. I came back through. By the time I came back through, we had a police officer out there blocking the road. I think I ended up coming back here working on some stuff. And by the time I ended up going, I already saw code enforcement was out there with their router, like going down the drainage trying to get the sewers and stuff clear. So they were out there working and trying to get the issues resolved. With that said, any other questions? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to stick around here till 11 o'clock, and then I am going to be heading, if these guys want me to go get a bite to eat with them real quick, and then at 12 o'clock, I will be at the community yard sale. So if anyone wants to come out and talk, anyone wants to buy anything, come out and buy something. All right? Thank you very much for coming out.
Adam's buying.
Money.
He probably don't have any money on him. This is the guy that leaves